Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like or appreciate the content of this video, please don't hesitate to hit the like button and the subscribe button for all the upcoming videos, and please comment throughout. Although this isn't a live broadcast, please feel free to comment below so that we can interact in upcoming videos. My name is Michael Childs. Welcome to the shed. Today's episode is not just special in the sense that it's the first one, but it's also Father's Day. I would like to start out by just saying Happy Father's Day to all of you out there, and to those who have recently or have lost their fathers. And today brings up not so much joyous memories, but maybe some grief. My prayers go out to you. My encouragement would be to get around siblings, aunts, uncles, neighbors, or friends of him, and just begin to think about the great times that you guys had. However, for a large portion, sadly, of our country, Father's Day brings up confusing feelings because, if we're honest, a large majority of our nation is considered fatherless. Not because the father passed away, but I know my generation has gone down as the generation that's called the fatherless generation. And here's my concern, and one of the reasons why I really felt like I was being asked by the Lord to do a lot of these videos, and that's that if my generation, and I'm 33, is considered the fatherless generation. I've got 3 boys and a little girl. Do you know what their generation will grow up as? Their generation grows up as the generation that doesn't understand the need for a dad. This is the logical next step. If you have a generation that's fatherless, then the only logical next conclusion, if nothing changes, is a generation that grows up not understanding the need for a dad. So this whole YouTube channel and everything that I feel like the Lord wants me to dedicate the next season of my life to is fatherhood. Not because I'm an expert. I successfully have raised 1 humanoid to 7. I've got a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a little girl that's roughly about 11 to 12 weeks. Specifics would be a mom question. But in that, I'm not an expert. But I feel like if we can come together as dads, begin to communicate, pull strengths off of each other, questions, and begin to create a community of fathers, we can reach out to those that don't have them. Be fathers to the fatherless, like the Bible asks us to be. And we can help change a generation that doesn't understand the need for a father and show them what a father is supposed to be. But not just any father, a Bible-based, believing dad that can then not just point them to what a good father is on earth, but fulfill a greater calling, and that's point them to the God of the universe, who truly is the father to the fatherless. He's the one that the Bible says brings the lonely into families. So in this first episode, I want to dive in right at the beginning and issue a challenge to you dads that might be watching. Are you somebody who God can bring the lonely into families? Are you that committed? Do you love the Lord enough? Or here, let me phrase it this way, and this is the way that God's been convicting me. Does the Lord trust you enough to bring lonely people to you because he knows that you're going to represent him well? And let's be honest, every day, it's up in the air, at least for me. Some days are good, some days not so much. This is why I believe fathers should not be doing it alone, but we should be in a community. I kind of want to start every episode with some statistics, so now it's time for the fatherhood statistics of the week. Statistic number 1, the percentage of children without a father in the United States, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, is 43%. 43% of children right now have no father. 11.9% of all runaways and homeless children are from fatherless homes, according to the National Institute of Justice. Lastly, 70% of minors housed in state facilities are fatherless homes or come from fatherless homes. This is something that God calls us to change. So today we're going to talk about the Superman syndrome, and we're going to talk about the Lone Ranger syndrome that I know I struggle with at times, but let's go in depth to figure out what exactly I mean. Uh, I've seen that all human perfection has its limits. No matter how grand and perfect and noble, your commitment is exceedingly broad and extends without limits into eternity. That was Psalms 119:96. God is saying, the psalmist is writing, and he's saying, I've seen all that human perfection has its limits, but God has no bounds. See, as a father and a husband, I've come to realize a very startling thing. See, I'm a fixer by nature, which comes in handy a lot, but it also gets me in a lot of trouble. Much to my surprise, my wife and children don't want me to fix everything. I don't know if that's you listening or watching right now. Maybe that is you. Maybe you're a fixer by nature. Do me a favor, comment below. Tell me something you thought was a good idea to fix. Only after fixing it, you realized that maybe they did it that way on purpose, or maybe they wanted to figure it out on their own. I know there's been a lot of times where I've seen my son struggling, and just in the busyness of life, I've gone and just opened it up for him, and they just melt on the floor. Dad, I wanted to do that. Why do you always have to do that? And but I'm interested to hear and to read some of your guys' comments. So comment below and let me know. Well, what's something you've tried to fix, or you fixed, thought it was a good idea, only afterwards to find out, not so much. See, I don't know if you're familiar with a comic book character by the name of Superman. I grew up loving comics, reading comics, but one of the things that has been talked about a lot in comic book fandom is this overpowered Superman, and the fact that if we're honest, he's part of a team, but he doesn't really need to be. He's not just a heavy hitter; he seems to have everything he needs to beat everybody. But I have to realize that one major thing, that's not me. See, although he might be able to handle everything, I've got limitations. And that's just not the case with us. See, I remember about 3 or 4 years ago, I was taking on way more than I should have. Taking on more responsibility at work. I was pastoring a church at the time. God had actually brought a 16-year-old runaway girl into our life, which is a crazy story I might get into later on. And I remember walking in the door one day, after all of this stuff, carrying all this weight, thinking that I could do it all on my own. My prayer life, my time with the Lord had gone by the wayside. And I just remember walking into our house, grabbing my chest, and hitting the ground. My wife, of course, freaking out, going to the hospital, realizing everything with me physically was fine. Running a lot of tests, going and seeing some heart doctors, found out there was nothing wrong with my heart. I was just super stressed and overwhelmed. I thought I could handle things that I couldn't. Let me ask you a quick question. Have you ever wondered why God gives you limits? Why he doesn't design humans to handle it all? But maybe a better question should be, do you know your limitations? Have you seen, like I did, the effects of taking on too much stuff? Well, maybe a better way to look at it, have you seen what it does to your wife or your kids? See, sadly, maybe there's somebody watching that didn't figure it out till it was too late, and as a result, maybe your kids are strained and you don't have a good relationship with them anymore, or maybe it gone so far as to take place in your marriage that it shouldn't have, and you and your wife are divorced. There's a saying growing up that I used to hear a lot in the church world that I was a part of. Don't sacrifice your family on the altar of ministry. But that's always stuck with me. I haven't always been good at it. There have been times, like I mentioned earlier, that I was terrible at it. And I willingly put my family on the altar of busyness, work, success. But it never pans out. Do you know your limitations? Have you seen the effects? See, God's created us in such a way that we will find our most joy in doing life in 2 ways: loving him and loving others. See, one of the ways we love him is to acknowledge the fact that he created us to need him. See, but as guys, as men, most of the time we think that we need to prove that we can do it on our own. My wife calls it the difference between a soldier and a son. And I fall in line with soldiers much more than sons, in the sense that you give me a task, God, and I'm going to do it. But to just sit there and trust that you love me, even if I fail at a task, it's a lot harder for me. Difference between a soldier mindset of following God and a son's mindset. But one of the ways that we know that we can show him that we love him is this idea that we acknowledge the need for him. See, he knows our limitations, and he wants us to lean on him so he can help us see those limitations. Have you ever asked, how can you know what your limitations are? Here's like a test, right? So if you can, this is how you can test to see if you're overwhelmed, or if you're stressed out, if you need to realize that you're not Superman. He's given us clues, right? The way our bodies respond. Do you live a life of pain, fatigue, stress, loss of joy? Are you irritable all the time? I know that I'm carrying too much weight. When my kids do small stuff because they're kids, and it didn't used to bother me, but now all of a sudden, because of certain situations that happen, it bothers the mess out of me. And I sometimes I blow up a lot more than I should, or I talk in such a way, or a tone. I'm super sarcastic, and I find that the more irritable I get, the more sarcastic I am with them. I just wonder if you're feeling any of that. One of the things I need, and I love the fact that God's brought the wife for me in my life, is because I need my wife to ask me questions when I'm feeling stressed. See, she notices that I'm not joyful. So she asks me questions, point blank. How was your time with the Lord? Because she knows that when I spend less time with Jesus, I start carrying more weight, more burdens. And she just tells me to go and pray. Especially like right in front of the kids, if she knows that maybe I'm talking way too harshly or sarcastic or whatever it is with my kids, she'll say, Michael, how's your time with the Lord? You need to go and pray. Maybe you need to go and pray. No, you need to go pray, right? and I don't take offense to it in the fact that sometimes it angers me because I'm already angered, or it's annoying me because I'm already annoyed. But I know, because I trust my wife, she loves me. And she loves the fact that I try to be a great dad. But when I carry too much, she knows that I can't be that dad that God's called me to be. So what about you guys, though? Comment below. How do you handle stress? Maybe some of you seasoned dads out there. Remember, I'm not the expert. I'm just throwing out what I believe God wants me to say in hopes to stir conversations amongst dads. So if you're watching this and you're a seasoned dad, how did you handle stress? How'd you deal with kids when they were when they were 5 and under, and you had to work a full-time job or 2 full-time jobs? How did you handle it as your kids were approaching teenage years, or they were in high school, senior, and you're dealing with all that stuff? Maybe you lost your job, and God taught you some lessons through losing your job and how to do it. Comment below. Let's have this conversation to help out, not just me, but help out other dads that are watching as well. Another way, second way we can love God is to acknowledge our need for others. So number one was the Superman syndrome. It's the idea that we need to realize where we've missed it. And the second thing is we need to understand our need for others. I call it the Lone Ranger syndrome. See, the Lone Ranger is somebody who thinks he can handle it on his own. Maybe you got to the point where you pray, you think you can do this thing with just you and Jesus, but can we speak truth real quick? See, fathering is hard work. To be a good dad, it doesn't come naturally. Maybe it comes more naturally for some than for others, but it's not something you become easily. Mix that with the average bent of most dads toward pride, and you have a serious situation. See, it's easier to do life by myself, but I also will be far more likely to crash if I'm by myself. It's easier. Like, I feel better because it makes my pride feel better when I do life on my own. But I'm also a whole lot more likely to crash because there's nobody holding me accountable. No one I can lean on if I'm struggling with different areas. Here's a good opportunity though, guys. If you haven't already, go ahead and like this video And do me a favor, sharing is caring, right? Go ahead and share it with somebody that maybe needs to hear something in this video to help them out. Or maybe you've got a seasoned dad. Share this with the seasoned dad. Help him, encourage him to comment on this video. But the second thing again is this idea of this being a lone ranger. When it comes to accountability, you and I need people in our life. We need to do life with people. There are over 50 verses in the Bible. Did you know that have to do with one another's? Things we're supposed to be doing with one another. I've just got a few lists here. Galatians 6:2. Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. John 13:34. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. Romans 12:10. Be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love, in honor, giving preference to one another. Not to mention verses like Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. As a father, though, sometimes it's hard, right? Let's be real. It's hard to do life with other guys. And it's hard to understand the need for it. See, there's a verse in Hebrews that helps keep this perspective, at least in my life. So Hebrews 4:13. And no creature is hidden from his sight, but all are naked and exposed to the eyes of him whom we must give an account. Here's the reality. You and I, we can do this life on our own. Push away help. We don't have to be sharpened by other men. We don't have to do any of that stuff. But there is a God that knows you're not perfect. He sees you. Again, Hebrews, I love it. No creature is hidden from his sight. We're all naked and exposed to the eyes of him who we must give an account. I don't want to die and go to heaven and know that there was a chance, an opportunity that I could have done more for God if I would have just allowed other men into my life to help hold me accountable. If I'm willing to let him lead me, he'll lead me to groups of guys that will help hold me accountable and men that I can help hold accountable. So here's the question. As we end this first video, let me issue a challenge to you dads. It's Father's Day. When's the last time you prayed that God would bring guys into your life to hold you accountable and that you can hold accountable? As for me, this is something I'm constantly asking the Lord. So when's the last time? Think about it. That's my challenge to you guys. Happy Father's Day. Again, if you liked this video, share it. Comment down below. Again, if you've got those stories of when you tried fixing something and it didn't really work, like the video or comment and let us know. How do you handle stress? What techniques you do? What do you do? Especially if you're a seasoned dad, or maybe you've been a dad for a year and God really did something in your life to help you handle stress. Let me know, guys. Listen, my name's Michael Childs, not a perfect parent, but I think together God can use us to truly change the direction of an upcoming generation. This Thursday, I'm so excited. A very good friend of mine, Pastor Chad Rogers, I'm going to be interviewing. Looking forward to that. We're going to be posting it up on Thursday. And then look for these videos at the beginning of every single week. And then every Thursday, we're going to be posting a father interview. And this is just another father. We'll see you guys later. Thank you again so much for tuning in.